Here's a business with the most reliable customer base in human history. Its demand never drops, it never goes out of style. It's completely recession proof because people die in good times and bad. And its customers are almost by definition in no state to negotiate, no state to shop around, and no state to say no. It's a funeral home. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the average funeral costs over $8,000, why the friendly family name on the building is often a corporation in disguise, and why Wall Street is quietly buying up death itself, betting on the deaths of tens of millions of people. Let's break down the economics of owning a funeral home. So, you want to own a funeral home. First, the demand, and this is what makes the whole industry unlike any other on earth. Roughly 3 million people die in the United States every single year. That number isn't a risk, it's a near certainty, growing steadily as the largest generation in American history, the baby boomers, reaches the end of life. There is no marketing needed to create demand. There is no seasonality that kills you. There's no fashion trend that makes your product obsolete. Death is the one product that never stops selling. The entire death care industry in the US is worth over $20 billion a year, and it is projected to keep climbing for decades. Now, how does a funeral home actually make money? On the surface, it looks like a service business, but underneath, it runs on a psychology no other business can touch. When a family walks in, they have just lost someone. They're grieving, exhausted, often in shock, and they're making rapid, expensive decisions inside a window of a day or two. They cannot postpone the purchase. They cannot shop around at 5 other funeral homes to compare prices. And crucially, spending less can feel like loving less. The whole emotional weight of the moment pushes in one direction: spend more to show you cared. Let's look at the actual numbers. The median cost of a traditional funeral with a viewing and burial is around $8,300. And that single bill is not one product, it's a stack of them, each with its own markup. There's the basic services fee, non-negotiable, just for the funeral director's time. There's embalming. There's the use of the facilities for the viewing, the hearse, the staff, and then the centerpiece of the traditional funeral, the casket. The casket is where the real markup lives. A funeral home can buy a casket wholesale for somewhere around $1,000 and sell it for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 or more. Markups of 300 to 500% on a single item are common. And here's the part that used to be a quiet trick of the trade. For years, funeral homes would discourage or outright refuse to let families bring their own casket bought cheaper elsewhere. That practice got so exploitative that the federal government stepped in. There's now a rule called the funeral rule that legally forces funeral homes to give you an itemized price list and to accept a casket you bought somewhere else. The fact that a federal regulation had to exist just to make this industry show you its prices tells you everything about how it operated. So, the traditional funeral is a beautifully profitable stack of high-margin add-ons sold to someone who cannot say no. Which brings us to the threat quietly reshaping the entire business: cremation. For most of the 20th century, burial was the default. And burial is where the money is: the casket, the vault, the plot, the headstone. But cremation has exploded. The cremation rate in the US has crossed 60% and keeps climbing. And cremation is a problem for the traditional funeral home, because a direct cremation can cost a family as little as $1,000 to $2,000, and it skips almost every high-margin product. No casket, no embalming, no burial plot. The rise of cremation is quietly compressing the fat margins the industry was built on, which is exactly why the big players are fighting to make cremation itself fancier, adding urns, memorial services, keepsakes, anything to rebuild the margin that the simple act of cremation stripped away. Now, here's the secret that makes this industry genuinely fascinating and a little unsettling. That funeral home in your town, the one with the reassuring family name that's been there for generations, there's a real chance it is not owned by that family at all. Over the past few decades, a small number of giant corporations have been quietly buying up independent funeral homes across the country. The largest, Service Corporation International, operates well over 1,000 locations. And here is the masterstroke. When they buy a beloved local funeral home, they very often keep the original family name on the sign. They keep the same staff. They change almost nothing you can see, because the entire value they purchased is your trust in that name. Studies have found that these corporate-owned funeral homes frequently charge significantly more than independents, in some cases 47 to 72% higher, while the family standing in front of you has no idea they're dealing with a national corporation at all. You think you're supporting a local family in your hour of grief. You might be paying a premium to a company traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And it goes one level deeper, because in recent years, private equity firms, the most aggressive money on Wall Street, have started buying up funeral homes too. Think about why. Private equity looks for markets that are highly fragmented, meaning lots of small mom and pop operators to roll up, with predictable recession-proof demand. The funeral industry is almost the perfect target. 80% of it is still small family businesses, ripe for consolidation. And the demand isn't just stable, it's about to surge. As tens of millions of baby boomers reach the end of their lives over the next 2 decades, Wall Street looked at an entire generation getting older and saw not a tragedy but a business forecast. So does owning a funeral home actually work as a business? Financially, it is one of the most stable enterprises you can own. Net margins commonly run from around 7% to 20%. Demand is guaranteed. Competition in any given town is limited, and the emotional dynamics of the sale protect your pricing in a way almost no other business enjoys. The threats are real. Cremation eating your margins, regulation forcing transparency, and the reputational risk of being seen to profit from grief. But as a pure business model, predictable demand plus emotional pricing plus limited competition is a powerful, durable machine. So if you still want to own a funeral home, remember the one truth the entire industry runs on. Every other business on earth has to convince you to want its product. This is the only one where the customer never has a choice about needing it, never has time to compare it, and feels that spending less is a kind of betrayal. The funeral home isn't really selling a casket or a service or a viewing. It's selling you a way to prove your love at the exact moment you're least able to think about the price. And the people who understand that, the corporations quietly buying the family name off the building, understand something the grieving family at the counter never will. In this business, the grief is the product.